Over to the nation's capital and Capitol Hill. House Democrats there have decided who will lead them during the next Congress, and they have gone with a familiar figure, longtime leader Nancy Pelosi, holding back a challenge from Ohio Congressman Tim Ryan. She wins another term as the House Minority Leader. Now, Ryan tried to convince colleagues that Democrats need new leadership after a very disappointing showing in this month's elections.
I think, quite frankly, we got the message out that we wanted to get out. We come out of this leadership election united as Democrats to take on the challenges that we need moving forward.
We have a responsibility, and we embrace the opportunity that is presented. We know how to win elections. We've done it in the past. We will do it again by making that differentiation. But again, this is so much bigger than politics. It's about the character of America.
And joining us now is New York Congressman Steve Israel. He's a Nancy Pelosi ally. He's also retiring from Congress, so actually he didn't get a vote today. This was for the folks who are going to be serving come January. But Congressman, thanks for joining us. Obviously, you know this process very well. You understand exactly what went down there in that room today. Let me ask you, bottom line, you're a Nancy Pelosi ally, but 63 Democrats, that's about a third of them in this secret ballot today, went with somebody else. That is a high level of discontent, isn't it?
Well, Steve, this was a very decisive win for Nancy Pelosi. In fact, the only thing we got wrong is that we were predicting that we'd have about 2/3 of the caucus, and in fact, we had more than 2/3 of the caucus. And here's why. It's not just the politics. It's not just that she wins elections. It's not just the fundraising. It's that she gets things done for our caucus and the American people. We are in the minority, and yet as a minority party, every time these Republicans try and send us off a fiscal cliff or shut down the government, she produces the votes necessary in order to move the country forward. And she's going to continue to do that. We're going to rely on her to do that now more than ever because you've got an administration, a Speaker of the House, and a Secretary of Health and Human Services who are obsessed with privatizing Medicare. That's the big battle that we're facing. We're united as Democrats to taking that battle to Republicans.
When you say she wins elections, the case that Ryan was making here was he's saying, hey, look, I'm from Youngstown, Ohio. I'm from that part of Ohio that you talked about on election night where you had those traditional Democratic voters who swung over and voted for Donald Trump. And he's saying, hey, these are the types of voters the Democratic Party has to focus on if it's going to win presidential elections again and if it's going to win the House back. And Nancy Pelosi now, 4 straight elections, 4 straight House election cycles, has not delivered a majority. Doesn't he have an argument there?
Well, Steve, I chaired the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee for 4 years, and with all due respect to Tim, who's a really good friend of mine, but with all due respect to him, I'm waiting for Leader Pelosi's critics to show me one single district that we would have won without her. I can show you, in this cycle alone, 5 to 6 districts that we couldn't have won without her. So the argument that she's costing us seats is just it doesn't hold water. But what's important now is that we put this behind us. The American people want us not to be fighting amongst ourselves and second-guessing and finger-pointing, but taking the fight to preserve Medicare to these Republicans, and that's what we're going to do as a completely united caucus.
Well, let me ask you this. You're retiring from Congress. Nancy Pelosi is 76 years old. She's been there for a generation now. The number 2 Democrat, Steny Hoyer, I think he's a year older. I think he's 77 years old. You got Jim Clyburn. He's also in his 70s. Tim Ryan is in his early 40s. Is there a case, is there an argument to be made here going forward that Democrats need to start thinking about bringing a new generation into these top positions?
Well, she listened to that argument, and that is why she's expanded her leadership by bringing in some of the newer members of Congress, some of the younger members of Congress. The caucus today elected a new leadership of our message team, the Democratic Policy and Communications Committee, which is comprised of new young leadership. So she understands the importance of expanding leadership to integrate and incorporate the views of younger members. But I'll also say this, and maybe I have a unique view because I work so closely with her as chairman of the DCCC. I don't know how old she is, but I'll tell you, she had more energy than I ever had. Every place I had been, and I had been to many places around this country, more congressional districts than I think anybody has, except for Nancy Pelosi. Wherever I was, either she was just there, or she was with me, or she was about to arrive. So I don't buy the fact that age is a limitation or an inhibition to Nancy Pelosi, and I would like anybody in this caucus to try and keep up with her. It's not easy.
All right, Congressman Steve Israel, retiring Congressman Steve Israel, Nancy Pelosi ally. Congressman, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Steve.